Right. I wonder if you can take your seats. We're going to start in just a couple seconds. Thank you. I wonder if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Again, I'm going to call the meeting of Bloomington City Council to order, and Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Black.
Here.
Alderman Fruin.
Here.
Alderman Howman.
Here.
Alderman Lauer.
Here.
Alderman Willamwe. Here. Alderman Painter.
Here.
Alderman Sage.
Here.
Alderman Schmidt.
Here.
Alderman Stearns.
Here.
Sorry, I
Confusing us.
I don't know what happened.
And I'm here too. That's okay. And we're going to go ahead and start with a public comment that can go up to 3 minutes per person. And again, just it's the policy of the council that we let people talk about anything they want to for up to 3 minutes, even if it's not something that's immediately on the agenda and we don't necessarily respond directly. And I'm going to go ahead and start with Rick Phillip. Is that correct? Philip, it is Philip. Sorry. Thank you, sir. Please come forward.
Passed around. I don't think you're aware of this, and I don't think anybody in here was.
Oops. Excuse me. Mm-hmm.
My lady friend and I went over here to the antique store underneath the center bridge. There was pieces of concrete falling down. And I looked up there, and if you were aware of that, it'd either have limits on it or that bridge would be closed. There's a whole bunch of pictures. And then I went over yesterday and took pictures of the center, or the Main Street Bridge that I could get to, and there's pieces falling out of it, but you can't get under it. I think there's an access right over here on this side that you get in somehow or other, but you can't get there to see what it looks like. But that's just two of the beams, and you can drive down Oakland and stop over here, go past to the corner over there and look that way, and you can see all the steel rods hanging out from underneath that bridge, and then, of course, you can see what's there. Now, somebody's starting to paint that. All these years, those bridges have not been painted. Now, I don't know if they're painting to cover them up or what they're doing, but you can't patch those with concrete and fix them because those posts are shot. They're just, and even where they stand, they're all broke out. The rods are coming out, and that bridge is dangerous.
All right. Well, actually, again, we normally do not engage citizens, but in this particular case, if I could turn your attention to Mr. Jim Karst, Public Works Director, if you'll give your contact information to him, and we'll get back to you very shortly. Thank you, sir. Thanks. Next, Alton Franklin.
My name is Alton Franklin. I live at 508 Patterson Drive here in Bloomington. Geez, where to start? Reaches a point where you run out of superlatives. You just run out of things to say. It absolutely boggles my mind that it's already been shown about 6 ways from Sunday that $750,000 is gone, but we're going to, I would class it as wasting the council's time. There's some people that would think of mental masturbation as something desirable. I don't. From my perspective, we've got more important things to do. Crumbling infrastructure is a good one. I just don't get it. I would think that after a certain portion of time, there'd be a certain maturation that would occur on the part of council members. When you see the things you see, and have to deliberate over the issues that you do, you reach a point, one would think, that you could say, maybe we better look at this as an adult. Maybe we better put our big boy, big girl britches on and make some positive, constructive decisions and not run around doing all these other things. One last thing, about the only thing I didn't hear authorization for is healing the sick and raising the dead. And I also missed the requisitioning of the white marble seat for the city manager. Quite frankly, I think that he has plenty of power as it is. We cared about, the main gist of what I heard was about efficiency. You know what? The Nazis were celebrated for their efficiency. They blitzkrieged every goddamn thing. And yes, I realize I'm using language that's a little bit strong, but I'm reaching a point of frustration, folks. Grow up. Act like adults. Serve this city like you were elected to do. Thank you.
Next, Diane Benjamin.
Everybody. I love the flags. Nice touch. First of all, thank you very much for pulling the ammunition from the consent agenda. If you don't know why it was pulled, go to blnnews.com. That's blnnews.com, and there's a complete explanation of why it was pulled. But that's not why I'm here to talk to you. I want to talk to you about the lawsuit I filed against the city of Bloomington last August. The reason I filed it was because the city refused to turn over information that I requested under the Freedom of Information Act. Twice the city has filed with the court to dismiss the case, and the judges denied it both times. We go back to court December 23rd, I believe. I have received some of the emails that I requested, so it's like an admission of guilt on the city's part that, yeah, we illegally redacted emails. I don't think you guys are aware that I offered to settle with the city the last court case, which was in November, and I want to tell you why and what it took to settle this case. I filed 2 more FOIA requests in October that I've never received an answer to. It is completely illegal to not respond to a Freedom of Information Act request. I was not denied, I was ignored. Okay, let me tell you about the first one. I have right here a trial balance from the city of Bloomington. There's an entry on here that says, loan to employee to create, $10,000. It is completely illegal to loan money to the employees. The Illinois Constitution says public money can only be used for public purposes. There could be a criminal offense here, and I don't know what it is, but the city's not answering, but I will find out what it is. The second FOIA request I filed was for information from the Coliseum. Nobody at the city will reveal the payroll at the Coliseum. There has been virtually no events scheduled this year, but the payroll is still close to $1 million a year. The citizens have a right to know who's getting paid, why they're getting paid, and where their money is being spent. The second request also had to do with the Coliseum. It had to do with the concessions from the Jason Aldean concert last February, which was a 2-night event. The city bought the Micros machines to track concession sales. They get different percentages depending upon where the concession is sold. To my knowledge, the city has never looked at the Micros machine reports. And the citizens have a right to know whether they're getting their fair share from the Coliseum concessions. And right now, there is nobody on this council that knows anything about the concession sales because nobody's looking at them. And the city refuses to answer my FOIA requests. If I have to keep filing lawsuits, I will. There is virtually no press in Bloomington Normal, so that leaves it to me. If the citizens are going to be informed, they're going to be informed by my website, again, blnnews.com. Now I can look at my paper to see if I missed anything. One more thing. Okay. You guys expect the citizens to follow the law. Here's a message from the citizens. We expect you to follow the law. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And again, just so that everybody knows, even if people state things that are not accurate at all, we don't respond. But if you want to ask us questions about this afterwards, we're happy to do so. And one more individual, let's see, is it Josh Fistbump Schmidgall? Again, Mr. Schmidgall, if I can ask, we don't have WJBC or the Panagraph come forward. If you, as a citizen, want to comment, that's fine, but we really aren't asking journalists to come up and use public comment time. Pardon me? Okay, go ahead. Now, we'll talk about it as a precedent, but go ahead.
Okay. Hi, this is Fist Bump again from Cities 92.9 from the morning show there with Ian Bain. People are broke. It's hard to find a job out there, and I heard the state of Illinois is billions of dollars in debt. Just the last few months, you raised property taxes, amusement taxes, gas tax, and talked about raising other taxes. Can you imagine how I felt when I found that out, that you have an extra $750,000? Not good. I'd like to see the $750,000 returned to its owners, the taxpayers. It's not yours, it's ours. The people out there in the audience. Do you remember us? We're the ones who just paid for your dinner tonight. If you agree with me, just don't answer.
Thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and go right along to the introduction and oath. Nicole Albertson is our Human Resources Director. Nicole, would you please come forward?
Mayor, if I could, let me just want to introduce Nicole, not only to the council, but the members of the audience and the community. We're very, very fortunate to have Nicole Albertson, who has accepted to serve in the position of Director of Human Resources. As you know, Emily Bell retired after about 35 years with the city. Nicole comes to us most recently from Heritage Enterprises, where she worked there for about 9 years as the Human Resource Manager. Heritage Enterprises, their corporation, I think employs upwards of, 5,000 employees, but a local company and with a lot of employees. She, prior to that, has served as HR Director for Heartland Bank and Trust, as well as McLean County School District number 5. And last but not least, she's also an adjunct faculty member at Lincoln College. It was very interesting to talk to her about some of the courses she teaches. I'm not sure if she's going to continue with as many courses in the future, but she is a local graduate from ISU in the area of both, business administration degree with additional emphasis in human resource. She has multiple certificates, a long bio on not only professional membership, but a lot of volunteer experience. She's very well known in the community, has a lot of contacts, has worked with unions, and we just feel very, very fortunate to have Nicole Albertson come to us, and this is her beginning of her second week full-time with the city. So we welcome Nicole, and tonight we get an opportunity to have her sworn in by the city recorder. So we'll turn it over to the city recorder for the swearing in of Nicole Albertson,
Tracy?
HR Director.
Is your family coming up and taking pictures?
They can, if they want.
If you want to come up on the dais, you can come up and stand behind.
Anyone want to come? Yeah, forward. Thank you.
Let me jump on the stagger so I can get you. So raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Nicole Albertson,
I, Nicole Albertson,
having been appointed to the position
having been appointed to the position
of Director of Human Resources
of Director of Human Resources
in the City of Bloomington,
in the City of
in
Bloomington,
the County of McLean,
in the County of
do
McLean,
solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the position of Director of Human Resources
of the position of the Director of Human Resources
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to our consent agenda. And the consent agenda is generally considered to be routine in nature, but there may be, if there's even one council member that wants to pull this, and we can. Are there any items that anyone seeks to pull from the council agenda? Alderman Sage?
Mayor, I'd like to pull item K for purposes of recusing myself from that vote.
Item 7K, so we would ask that this be approved with the exception of item 7K. Other exceptions? Alderwoman Stearns.
Pulling 7J.
Pull 7J.
Please.
Okay. And that's Judy.
H.
And 7H. Okay. In that order. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exceptions of item 7K, J, and 7H?
So moved.
Moved by Alderwoman Painter. Is there a second?
So moved.
Moved by a second by Alderwoman Howman. Any further discussion? Alderman Fruin.
Mayor, thank you. With regard to the consent agenda, I have not received any monies or financial benefits from any of the individuals or organizations referenced in these specific agenda items. Thank you.
Okay. Would everyone vote? A positive vote, of course, is in favor of the consent agenda as amended. The motion carries 9-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. Okay. Moving right along, we're going to go ahead and start with item 7K. Alderman Sage, you'd like to recuse yourself? Yes. While we do this, and we'll come out and get you. Okay. Is there a motion to approve item 7K?
So moved.
Moved by Alderwoman Painter. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Milwaukee. All right. Any discussion? Okay. Again, if everyone would vote.
Mayor, I would just like to
I'm so
weigh in
sorry.
here. This is my ward,
Sure.
and these folks we have had some parking issues along there. Have had some complaints. It seems to alleviate that at certain times, and not necessarily during normal business hours, but so there are several businesses along in that area that are populated by customers at different times, such as Saturday afternoons, etc. And I would assume that this will help to alleviate some of those congestion issues. So just thought I'd weigh in. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Go ahead. Everybody vote who wanted to vote? Okay. The motion carries 8-0. Thank you. And if someone would get Alderman Sage. All right, we're going to move right along. Let's see. Judy, you pulled item 7J. I'm doing this in the order that they were pulled. I mean, I can do it either way. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Well, given that we want to make sure that we're in the interests of being alphabetical. Actually, I think this one's probably easier. Alderman didn't understand that December has happened, or you're supposed to shave. Scott Black, you have council
Grown a
dates.
beard.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the reason I'm pulling this is not because I'm going to vote against it, but because I'd like to go ahead and remind you and staff that I'd like to get on the calendar a joint meeting between the county and the town at least some point in the future, so we're not scrambling to get it set up. There are many salient issues we can go after. Solid waste continues to be one, water, many regional issues that we should be talking about, economic development. It'd be good to see that.
And not touchy issues like Metcom.
Not touchy issues like Medcom, but that'd be a good one to have on there too. So if I would like to just give my feedback that it would be good to see that put on the calendar for 2015 well in advance so citizens can attend and we're all ready for it to go.
Okay. So are you therefore going to go ahead and make the motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Schmidt. Okay. Would everyone vote, please? The motion carries 9-0. Thank you very much. And we move on to, now, in alphabetical order, item 7K. You're not kidding. That's fine. And that is to Alderwoman Stearns.
This one, I got a number of phone calls about today, and I wanted to confirm just a simple fact that our downtown detail, in terms of keeping order in our bar district, whatever we call it, I believe has remained stable. Is that the case, Mr. City Manager Hales, or have we increased or decreased our downtown overtime police officers hire back in the downtown?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any changes from the status quo downtown. Police chief is in the back. You aware of any changes? No.
Just in terms of liquor violations, there have been very few downtown. Well, actually, only one establishment this calendar year.
Okay. I wasn't
liquor
concerned
law.
about that.
Yeah,
I
right.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
But
sure.
my concern is about the cost of the hire back. And, you know, I know there have been some positive changes. But this license, I got a number of phone calls about today, and I will say that there's been a tremendous amount of talk on council about looking at the downtown scenario and the cost of it and who really bears that cost. Now, I think soon we're going to be talking, about increasing liquor licenses and fees, and possibly I think there's even a proposal for video gaming. And yet, what's the cost of the downtown bar scene on a weekly basis? Well, it's been stable with the hire back, and that's one number that we know. 6 police officers on a weekend night, something like that. It's a financial drain and a time drain. And I'm not saying that we don't need those officers, because I think we absolutely do, and maybe could even use more. But the point is, we've talked about shifting the cost of this to those who are in this business downtown, and yet I don't believe we've got a mechanism, or we've really established a way of actually doing that, or even a strategy for doing it. And yet here we are with another license, and whether it's a new license or not is not the issue. I know that was discussed. You know, an old one goes, a new one comes. I do know we've lost 2 businesses in our North Main Street district. The Chocolatier is gone, a business that I happen to love, and a lot of other people did, and also Lancaster's, another business that I thought was extremely valuable to our downtown, is gone. This license, I think, is only adding to the burden, adding fuel to the fire. And I assure you it has nothing whatsoever to do with the gentlemen who are proposing it, because I'm sure they would probably be responsible and good owners as any other owner down there. The question that I heard from citizens is, why are you adding fuel to the fire? Why are you expanding this district when, frankly, the culture down there hasn't changed? And I've heard council commit to changing it, but honestly, and this is one subjective opinion, I don't think it's changed. So it's really hard for me to support this just based on that. I do believe it will pass, and I think we'll just go forward downtown, but it's deeply concerning to me, the cost and the image and the safety factor. And I don't believe I can support this based on what I'm hearing from a lot of the citizens of Bloomington, but I think it's going to probably pass nonetheless. Thank you, Mayor Renner.
Yeah, thank you. Just to clarify, in terms at the Liquor Commission, this is something that we did not have people speaking, as I recall, in opposition. We had people speaking in favor of it. We also have some of the other considerations where it's not just that it's a business swapped out. In other words, there are no new net liquor licenses. We're actually down liquor licenses in this area of downtown. But it's also, we didn't necessarily also want a vacant building. And it was a business model that was consistent with Route 66 and economic development. It was also the person who was developing, one of the partners in this is someone who lives downtown and has an excellent reputation for actually on the redeveloping projects, not just in downtown, but in old historic districts. And in fact, actually the old Anita Bourne house across the street from Burr House, is an example of that. It's actually kind of a shining example of that. So there were lots of reasons that we brought forward. I did consult Alderwoman Karen Schmidt, whose ward this is in, and discuss this with her. And so those are the steps that we took on the Liquor Commission. Alderwoman Schmidt, do you want to speak?
I wanted to see if we could put a motion in play first, and then I wanted to make some comments.
Okay, did you have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this license as presented to us.
Okay. Is there a second? Second by Alderwoman Painter. Now further discussion.
Thank you. So Judy, I really appreciate that you're bringing these questions up. They're very serious questions. The Downtown Entertainment Task Force started that, and we have not yet finished it, and you're absolutely right. I don't want to put that to bear on this particular license, but I hope that we don't lose steam on those questions, because it is, we're investing in our downtown. It's an important part of our town, and we wanted to make it the best it can be. In the case of this license, in addition to it, the not being an additional license or whatever, I think it is important that the owner this is literally in what would be his backyard. There's a lot that he's invested in our downtown and our community, and the person who's managing it has an enormous amount of experience, understands what Bassett and Step training is, and they do have a vision of turning it into a real pub and helping to improve sort of the food availability and the general tenor of the downtown. And I guess I would add on to that once again, I want to say I really appreciate the work of our mayor and our liquor commission, because I think when we have problems, we're seeing them addressed. And I really, really appreciate that a great deal. And on the basis of that and having seen their business plan, I feel comfortable about this, and I wouldn't necessarily about every liquor license that comes along, but I think this is a good one.
Okay. Any other further comments before we vote? Okay. The motion carries 8-1. Madam Clerk?
The nay vote is Alderman Stearns.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mayor, if I could,
yes.
I'd just like to make one supplemental comment. This morning, actually, at staff meeting, we were talking about the former downtown nightlife report we brought to the council, and as Councilwoman Schmidt mentioned, there's been a lot of work. Sometimes there's a lot of discussion, a lot of points being made, but very rarely have we had specific council vote on, goals, specific objectives. There has been some, adding downtown cameras, and other things, but we did believe that it would be helpful to kind of bring back to the full council just kind of an update of what has been done. What were the things previously as a group the council approved or wanted to move forward with? Is there anything outstanding? Because sometimes even I get confused. What maybe was the direction the council wanted to go in? And so I think it would be beneficial for the council. We'll come back with an update, and also, show you only the things, that the council's given us real specificity and direction on. But, and who knows, maybe that'll be a forum for the council to give further discussion should more be done, as far as downtown nightlife. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. We're going to move right along to our regular agenda, and item 8A is enterprise zone application, and the staff recommendation is the intergovernmental agreement be approved, the ordinance passed, and the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the necessary documents. We've got approximately 10 or 20 minutes budgeted. We have a brief presentation and then some question and answer, and then I'll ask for a motion after the presentation.
Mayor and council are going to have Austin Grammer, our economic development coordinator, to give some highlights on this, both the ordinance and the intergovernmental agreement. But I do want to just say that not only I, Austin, and many others have been involved with staff at the town of Normal, McLean County, because we all believe that it is very wise and prudent that the city, working with these other entities and the EDC, submit an application for a new enterprise zone for the future. All enterprise zones statewide will expire at the end of 2016. The deadline for this application to be submitted is December 31st. As you know, previously we shared with you some of the areas being added to this enterprise zone, but I think this is a good example of collaboration with these other governmental entities, and we all believe that adding or getting a new enterprise zone would give us a very valuable economic incentive and economic tool to not only retain businesses but attract others in the future. With that, let me have Austin Grammer just give a few highlights of what's contained in these documents. So,
thank you.
Austin.
Yes. Well, an enterprise zone really is all about the state incentives that are available to us through having such a zone. Those incentives include a sales tax exemption on building materials used in any construction in the zone, subject to some various limitations. Sales tax exemption on machinery and equipment purchases if they are greater than a $5 million investment and result in the creation of more than 200 jobs. There are also possible state utility tax exemptions, investment tax credits, job tax credits, income tax deductions, and loans available for the creation or retention of jobs. And these are all incentives coming from the state. There will be a cap of 97 enterprise zones created throughout the state over the next couple of years. The enterprise zone really serves to attract capital investment and create and retain jobs. It's really a competitiveness issue for the state and also for us locally here in McLean County. We compete globally, regionally, and statewide. If we do not land one of these enterprise zones, we will be unfortunately behind another county or city or municipality or group of towns that ends up landing one of these. So we've got to put our best foot forward and put together a great application, which I feel that we have before you to consider tonight. Also, definitely, it's really the cost savings that it presents to the businesses that seek to locate here or seek to expand here that are already located within the proposed zone. The benefits stand to be provided to a couple of major local employers that are already currently located in the enterprise zone, like Bridgestone and Mitsubishi. Applications must be submitted to DCEO by December 31st. So the time is of the essence. Want to give a big thanks to Ken Springer, Mike O'Grady, Amy Denham, and Donna Ferrucci at the Bloomington Normal Economic Development Council for all of their assistance in putting this package together. Also want to say a big thank you to City of Bloomington Interim Economic Development Coordinator Frank Kaler for serving in the interim capacity and helping Ken and the staff at the EDC put together the map that you have before you. And also big thanks to Mark Peterson and Brian Day at the Town of Normal for collaborating with city staff in helping to put together some of the agreements that you see before you. I can pause and take some questions,
Yes,
or I could go on and tell you about how many other great facets there are of the enterprise zone.
But we don't have the time.
Oh,
So,
darn, okay.
And I know if we have counsel, I'm sure that want to ask questions.
Sure, you bet.
So, questions? Okay, at this point, do we have a motion?
Sir, sorry,
sorry.
but I do have a comment, and I'm just looking at both sides of this issue, and I'm probably speaking more to the state legislature and our incoming governor than I am to yourself. We wouldn't need these types of areas if our state was put on better ground. Cut the tax rates and allow business to grow naturally in the state of Illinois across the state, instead of trying to pinpoint and create these areas where we can end up with crony capitalism. I'm talking and have talked with incoming Governor Rauner about this, and I'm sure he's aware of it, and we will be having additional talks forthcoming. We need to get the state of Illinois back on track. Thanks.
Okay. Is there a motion then?
I'll make a motion that we approve as presented.
Okay. Moved by Alderman Black. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderwoman Schmidt. Further discussion? Okay. Yes vote is in favor of establishing the enterprise zone. The motion carries 9-0. There are no nays to announce, Madam Clerk. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Austin. Thank you. All right. We move right along to item 8B, a text amendment to Chapter 1, adoption of the administrative adjudication system. And at this point, since we don't have a presentation, I will ask for a motion.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Alderwoman Painter. I'm assuming you are in favor of passing this. That was really quick. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Black. And now discussion questions, and I need to clear this and stop that. Sorry. Okay. Alderwoman Stearns?
Thank you. I've heard a lot about this from contractors around town, various business people. A lot of concern about the whether or not this process will somehow weigh things in the direction of the city and will take out the fairness aspect or the balance. Because, of course, the adjudicators, the attorneys who adjudicate, are going to be paid by the city. And yet, I think the balance of the research I've done and the logic that I see is that this will streamline the process. And the good news is that there is an appeal process. And more than that, the appeal process is going to be such, I believe, and maybe Mr. Juergens, Jeff, maybe you can help me with this, is going to be such that if the citizen is not happy with the judgment of this process and takes it further to the circuit court and wins, which, if he's going to win, he probably would have won in the first place, so he's right back to square one of going to circuit court. Then he could ask for some monetary judgment in his favor for his trouble of hiring his attorney, et cetera, et cetera. And he could win, and that's not something our adjudicators want to see happen, obviously. So I think those adjudicating, if that's the correct verb, I think it is, will truly have an interest in being balanced and in delivering a judgment that is fair. And they'll have more time to consider than a judge in circuit court will, because frankly the burden is so heavy and the volume is so intense in courts that, if you've ever been there, they tend to go through things as quickly as possible, and it's certainly conceivable that they will rule in the city's favor just from the fact that, hey, we're all in government together, the city must be right. The adjudicators, I think, will have more time to really consider the facts, consider all the parties, consider all of the whatever anyone cares to present to them. And I think that's what is going to, balance. For me, the balance lies heavier with doing this for the fairness, for the time, for the ability to really present their case and really get a fair decision. One really quick example, and I think we've all been there, a citizen called me not too long ago and said they had gotten a letter from the city about painting their house. And they said, hey, I'm painting it. I bought the paint. I'm working on it. I'm trying. I was in the hospital, had surgery. All of these things. And now there will honestly be a process for presenting that. And adjudicators who I think will try to be as fair and as balanced as they can be. Not a judge who oftentimes is just so overburdened with volume that they don't have the time. Now, Jeff, if you could help me with that and tell me where I'm going right or wrong here, I would really appreciate it.
Absolutely. There is a new law that will be effective in January that provides that if a hearing officer were to impose a fine on the owner of a single-family or multifamily residential dwelling, so basically one of these property code violations, and that decision was arbitrary or capricious, or if the city did not provide an accurate record of the proceeding so that the hearing court the reviewing court can decide that, they will be entitled to their court cost and attorney fees. So the city has every intent to make sure that its hearing officers are fair, trained adequately in due process, which is required by the law. We do not want a bunch of yes men. That would actually be a potential liability on the part of the city. We just want people that are going to fairly adjudicate these proceedings.
And Angela's experience in Sangamon County was pretty helpful, too. She hadn't encountered that situation.
Absolutely, yes.
Let's see, Alderwoman Painter and Alderman Black.
Well, thank you. I think this is a really good idea because it will unclog the court system. It'll give us quicker turnaround. It'll save money for both the defendant and the city. We'll be hiring part-time attorneys with no benefits or pension. Angela will be representing the city, and the attorneys will come out of a different revenue stream, so there is no conflict of interest there. Due process is adhered to, and the defendant may appeal and will be heard by a circuit judge if they so want to do that. The defendant may use their own attorney. Formal rules of evidence don't apply, and that would be a great benefit to the defendant. There's a cap on fines when using this process, and this will bring about increased code enforcement, making this a more pleasant city. I think it's a really good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Black.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Jeff. I guess a couple questions and then some comments. So you have a target start of 2015, January 2015. Is that still?
When we initially proposed this and did not think it was going to be very controversial back in November, I think we were hoping to start January 2015. I think it'll probably be a little more into 2015, maybe February 2015.
Okay. Where will the meetings be, or the hearings be held?
We're looking at hearing it right here in City Hall.
Will they be taped?
Yes, I'm not sure if they'll be videotaped. They'll be recorded.
Whatever
Yeah, they'll have some sort of recording system.
An anachronistic choice of words I
Yes.
used there. So yes, so it'll be. Will that be posted online for anybody to watch, or?
No, that's not our intent at this point in time. They
Well,
just be
can I ask
audio
why?
recorded.
Can I ask why?
Right now, you're not video recorded in circuit court. There's no requirement that they be video recorded. There could be certain, privacy issues that people could have a concern with. It's something certainly we could talk about, but it's not something we had contemplated at this point in time.
Sure. Okay. I'll just note that I shopped this around at a couple neighborhood associations that are in my ward, and one of them was met with a round of applause. People are pretty excited about this process. One thing I'd like to suggest is when this program gets up and running 6 months from that point, whatever month that might be, so if it's in August or if it ends up being in September, whatever that might be, that we have a report at the committee of the whole meeting that breaks down, how many cases went through, what the fines look like, average, that type of thing, most, minimum. And I'd also like to see some pictures of kind of before and after for some of the cases that we've heard. A lot of times when we talk about code enforcement, we talk about some of the numbers, and we don't think about what it looks like to the neighborhood. And I think that would be helpful whenever that would be. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, Alderman Lauer and Milwaukee.
Jeff, just a couple things briefly, and you weren't here 2 weeks ago, or was it last week? 2 weeks ago when we talked about this. I am cautiously optimistic. I've talked with our local cadre of law enforcement officers and others. We do have a backlog. We certainly can enforce some of our ordinances, and I think that's a good thing. I think people should be abiding by the law, but I'm troubled by the fact that we've got a couple of fellas that are going to be, or ladies, I don't know which, that will be adjudicating this that are not elected. And our limits up here are just, they seem to be astoundingly high. I'm not sure this predicates the amount or levity of the entire statute or statutory limitations out to $50,000. And in another area over here, in enforcement and judgment, it talks about demolition and foreclosure. That's kind of scary language for an ordinance. And I wonder if there's any way, and I asked your counterpart, if there was a way that we could make that a bit softer so that anything that would come into play there could be moved on very easily to the circuit court, so that the city, there's a reason that we have three basic branches of government in the city. When you get into this tight, we're not really doing that. We're hiring a couple of guys to be judges here, basically, and I'm troubled by that with these amounts in the foreclosure language.
Absolutely, and that's something that Alderman Stearns asked me before the meeting. Just because we create this system of administrative adjudication doesn't mean for all, if we wanted to do a foreclosure or something like that, doesn't mean we'd have to use this process. We could still file in circuit court. And, those are going to be the exceptions to the rule when we get those types of cases. It very well may be that we decide we want to utilize the circuit court process for something like that. Otherwise, I believe this is just simply tracked the statutory language, which allows those types of things to be included. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we would want to utilize this process for those types of things.
Okay. All right. If did you have
Question.
another comment?
And I appreciate very much what Kevin is saying. Of course, there's always that appeal, that appeal option. But I'm just curious, is there any way, Jeff, that we could, in fact, structure this so that it did not include such proceedings as foreclosure?
We can structure, this is something that you can structure as a home rule municipality. You're not limited by the statute on this specific, set of criteria. So we could certainly do that. Now, what you may want to consider doing is if there's a momentum to move forward with this, we could always amend that later and come back with an amendment to, take out the foreclosure or something like that. We could certainly look at something like that.
So if we were doing this, Scott Black said, at some point in August or September, taking a look, we're going to have a breakdown of
Absolutely.
all the cases and
Yes.
everything.
Yeah.
So at that point, we could make that amendment. We could amend this.
I'm not aware of it. Yeah, you can amend this at any point in time. And I'm not sure why we wouldn't be able to, take out something like that.
If you, okay, so are you making a motion to amend it now? Okay. Can I, if I could just clarify, what is the problem with foreclosure?
I think that's much too high. There are those of us among our citizens that that may encompass all of their wealth, and I have trouble with an unelected official hired by the city having the ability to force judgment on somebody up to that level, and including possibly foreclosure.
Okay. Now, Jeff, just to clarify for us, the $50,000 limit, that's the one is that standard? Is that Sangamon and all the other cities that use that around us?
That's a statutory limit.
I see. That's a statutory limit. And then foreclosures, the council could decide not to include foreclosures?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I recommend that $10,000.
And take out the
$10,000.
foreclosure later.
And strike the foreclosure.
Okay. All right. Okay. You amend it, and there's a second. So we need to vote on that motion.
And I'd like to second.
The second was Alderwoman Stearns.
So point here.
This is an amendment to the main motion.
So if this were to pass, that would then supersede the main motion?
No,
Or be
then we have to vote on the main motion.
Okay, so then, okay,
Right.
gotcha.
So this is only, do we lower the threshold to $10,000 and remove foreclosures? Okay. And so if everyone would go ahead, wait a minute, let me clear the results because I think someone had voted already earlier. Okay. A nay vote would be against this change. Okay. A positive vote, of course, would mean this would be amended the main motion. Okay. The motion fails 2-7. Madam Clerk, would you announce the nays?
The nays are Alderman Sage, Milamway, Painter, Schmidt, Black, Howman, and Fruin.
Okay. Thank you very much. And now I think what we will need to do, I need to clear that result, and we're back to the main motion. And if you'd vote on the main motion as presented. Okay. The main motion as presented passes 7-2. Madam Clerk, would you announce the two nays?
The two nay votes are Alderman Lauer and Stearns.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mayor, may I make a comment?
Absolutely.
I think just another great example of some of these new decisions, new programs that we implement, and it could be anything across the board, but it's so hard to find consensus at the very beginning of a program. So that's why I like whatever it is we're talking about, plug it in and evaluate it in 6 months. I think this is a great example that we're never going to see everything all agreed, and that's why we just have to move forward with something and experience it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're moving along to our last item, item 8C. And just for those of you in the audience who weren't not here in our earlier exciting episode, we discussed this in more detail at a work session, and that is some of the priorities. And again, my recollection of that is we did seem to have a little bit of consensus on whether or not, again, this is $750,000 in terms of council is interested in rails or trails, and council is interested in perhaps not the golf cart path. But at this point, just to clarify, a couple people in public comment had alluded to this. This is $750,000 that was a grant in 2008, or 2009, excuse me, and it does say Bloomington, Illinois, trails, and parks, and that's the designated use by the law. Now, we've had conflicting reports about how this may or may not be allocated, but the one thing that would not happen is if we do not have a plan and this money would go to somebody else, it's not going to unfortunately go back into the treasury of the state of Illinois. So that is very often the position that we're in local government. We're at the mercy of our state capitals because we're created by state capitals, and we exercise only their constitutional power and authority. So we are limited here, and that is the particular situation we're in. So the point for the council is for us to exercise as elected officials from the city, taking the park master plan and items that have come through years of public input and in a needs assessment, which of these things do we think, if we got this money, what are our priorities? And we would send that to two places. One we would send, of course, to Springfield. Who knows what Springfield will do? The other is we would send it also to Senator Brady. So the process here, we're really looking at what are our priorities if we had the $750,000. And so, Mr. Hales.
Mayor, Bobby Harakovich, who also was here during the work session, has just shared with me something for your consideration. And let me, if I can give you kind of two thoughts here, or two options. Both would eliminate the so-called Prairie Vista Golf Course cart path. One option, which I think we heard a lot about, is continue with the Constitution Trail in that amount of $300,000, and then the second project would be Sunnyside Park, but increase the funding from $200,000 to $450,000. So again, that's one option. It eliminates. So Constitution Trail $300,000, Sunnyside Park $450,000. A second, as previously discussed a little in the workshop, is so option two would be same Constitution Trail $300,000. But allocate, $250,000 for Miller Park infrastructure, pavilion, structural improvements, things of that nature. And I think, Bobby, we'd probably want to increase that probably to equal the 750, right? As you know, in the Miller Park Pavilion, that one handout, just an elevator itself is pretty costly, but we have a lot of Miller Park Pavilion infrastructure needs. So that basically, again, it's a trail and Miller Park infrastructure improvements. We just wanted to throw that out for your consideration. Bobby can come up and respond to that or any other questions you might have, but it's just a way to give you some additional ideas by excluding the cart path from these priorities for your consideration.
And again, we're talking about, we're not actually executing this. We're just talking, these are our priorities. Right. Period. And I'm sorry, that's your question. So that's other comments, questions, weighing in on.
I would like to make a suggestion that we somehow get in contact, whether it's you or myself, and maybe both of us with Senator Brady, and sit down and try to clear the air here a little bit and figure out exactly what would work for everyone involved.
Well, I'd like to, at this point, to do our due diligence about what our priorities would be. We can, if we've got priorities that from here, then we can go and talk to Senator Brady. That's what we would send to him. Again, I'm getting very different responses depending on who we talk to in Springfield, and they're not consistent. And I know that Senator Brady has one way of looking at it. There's actually three different ways, different kinds of responses we're getting. But tonight, if I have something from this council that says these are our priorities, then we can go forward.
I'm just concerned that we're not looking at all the possibilities possibly here. If we make a decision tonight, then we've already made the first step in that direction, and maybe we would have to rescind that again, sir.
Well, I don't think we have to rescind anything if we say these are our priorities. There's nothing to rescind. We're not entering into a contract.
I'm just saying that if our conversation was correct and it doesn't have to be spent on parks and trails, that there are other possibilities.
Oh, that latter part I understand is absolutely inaccurate. That's
okay.
No, it's who has the control, but we'll see. Alderman Sage.
David, we talked a little bit a couple weeks ago about the possibility of this coming back with some options. I know that I took a few minutes to reference back to the Parks and Rec Master Plan, and specifically there were some projects that were called out in there in terms of some underserved areas. 2 or 3 different parks areas. I think Westwood Park was one of those. Wittenberg Woods was one. And I'm wondering if you can comment a little bit. It's somewhat frustrating for the folks in those, as noted in the Parks and Rec Master Plan, those underserved areas, that somehow there's not some opportunity to participate in this as part of this grant. Can you comment a little bit as to the process and why those weren't maybe fully considered or brought forward to the council?
Yeah, let me have Bobby kind of comment on that. Thank you.
They are on our list, Alderman Sage. However, the price tag is bigger. So we have an estimate for Wittenberg Woods of $800,000, Woodbury Park $700,000, and Westwood Park another $450,000. We've got those in capital improvements for 16, 17, and 18. and hopefully we would be able to also get some OSLED funding to offset them, but they are on our priority list.
Could I also add that, as we look at some of these undeveloped properties, there certainly is a heavy planning phase with a lot of public participation, which could take, who knows, part of a year, and then construction following that. And I think, too, as we tried to come up with these options, we tried to think again in terms of taking care of what we have and existing improvements that are in serious need of repair or need additional investments. So those are maybe a couple other reasons why maybe we're not, quite putting those at the top of our staff recommended priority list.
Okay. And Mayor, if now would be appropriate to offer some feedback,
Please.
I think I would probably be more inclined or interested in looking at some of the Miller Park infrastructure as opposed to the cart paths, kind of swapping out one for the other. But again, I think as the work session indicated, I'm in support of the primarily the maintenance of Constitution Trail, the resurfacing, and then the Sunnyside, park enhancements. So
So
thank
you were speaking in favor, in a sense, option 2
Yes.
as a priority. So there would be the Sunnyside Trail enhancement and Miller Park Pavilion.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that actually a motion? I mean, it's by a motion. Again, we're talking about our expression of our priorities.
Sure.
Okay. That mean, we're not making any contracts here. That's what.
Yeah. Sure. I don't wouldn't presume to speak for others on the council. I know we're coming right out of the work session.
We can,
but I would move then that we actually pursue option 2 then with the same dollar amount as proposed for Constitution Trail, same amount for Sunnyside, and then in effect substituting the Miller Park infrastructure as proposed instead of the cart paths.
I'll second that.
a second by Alderman Black. I'm sorry. Did you? Okay. All right. Alderman Black, Fruin, and Schmidt. Excuse me, Stearns.
I'll just say, and I said it before, that my patience is worn very thin on this whole situation. That I am tired of wasting staff resources on this. Who knows if we even have this money? This all might be a moot exercise. It's if the show Parks and Rec were still on, they wouldn't even consider this a feasible storyline because it just seems so ridiculous. Every time I open the paper, there's something different. So I think that this is a pretty clear understanding as to where we're at, and I hope that Senator Brady will listen and go with that. So thank you.
Alderman Fruin.
Thank you, Mayor. I said earlier in the work session that I would support the staff recommendation because I think all 9 or 10 of us could draw up a different approach. I also said that I prefer maybe a single project. I think it might have more impact than diluting it. I don't know if that's the right word, but having 3 sections here. So I will support the motion. I think it's a good motion. But I just wonder if the 3-part is going to be less likely to be accepted than a 1 project approach. And if I was going to do a 1 project approach, because I think the great need is there, it would be Miller Park. Miller Park, period. $750,000, but that's not on the table right now. We've already got a motion on the table. And let's not lose sight of the fact that what we do tonight, who knows what will happen with it, but we've got a lot of budget discussion going ahead, so some of these are going to hopefully fall into the budget discussion. So this isn't a now or never deal. Thank you.
Although it will be, if this is moot, this will be the last night of staff time allocated to this. Right? Let's see, Alderwoman Stearns.
Right. Yeah, I don't think in 8 years I've ever voted on something theoretical or, gee, I'm voting on a wish. Frankly, I don't get that at all. I'm a little bit confused that, yes, we've all identified a lot of nice priorities, and I'm a big fan of infrastructure. It's really a way to spend it for the taxpayers. I mean, the taxpayers are going to spend the money anyway. Here's some money that could be directly spent on a project that the taxpayers need to fund for sure. But I don't know why we don't just, I'm sure Senator Brady is very much aware of what we're talking about. He's very much aware of what were saying. I don't know why we don't sit down with him and why he doesn't have a part in this process of helping us select. I think it's a little bit, I guess the word ridiculous is a little strong, but I think it's pretty silly to vote on something that could be completely moot and completely, not happen at all. And I'm a big fan of sitting down with Senator Brady and allowing him to be part of the process, because after all, he brought this money to us and we unanimously rejected his proposal. Now I think the ball should be in his court, and that's just my sentiment. Thank you.
Okay, all right. At this point, we'll go ahead and vote for the motion. Yes. Yeah. The motion is for essentially option 2 that basically says our priorities would be $300,000 for Constitution Trail, $250,000 for the Miller Park Pavilion and repairs, and the remainder for Sunnyside Park. Is that correct, Mr. Hales? That's correct? And the maker? Yeah.
200,000 for Sunnyside
Oh,
Park.
Yeah.
And 250,000
That's
for
what it
Miller
said.
Park infrastructure,
Yeah.
which totals 750. So.
Right, that's what,
Yep. Okay.
that's what it said, and I believe that's what we mentioned. Okay, so that's what if you're in favor of that as a priority, assuming this comes to fruition, then if you'd vote yes. If you're against, then you vote no.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to vote present. I'd like to vote present.
Present.
That's not an option here.
How does she do that electronically, Madam Clerk? Just don't vote?
I'm just telling you.
Think.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if everyone will go ahead and vote, please.
Maybe to protect Judy's interest, is a present vote not counted? Because abstaining,
But voting present?
No,
It's not abstaining, yeah.
a voting present implies agreement with the majority vote.
Right.
I just want to protect her interest, whatever it is, but.
Right. I think, Madam Clerk, you've got her recorded properly. Okay, the motion does pass 8-0 with no abstentions. Excuse me, no nays. I'm sorry, not no abstentions, no nays. All right. We're going to move right along. Mr. Hales, City Manager's discussion.
Mayor, don't have anything tonight to share with the council.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to thank Alderman Karen Schmidt, who's also our Mayor Pro Tem, for filling in and lighting our Christmas holiday tree in Withers Park on Friday. I had to go to Chicago to accept an award on behalf of the City of Bloomington for our pension policy for public safety pension. We're considered a model. It was us and Berwyn. We got the top 2 honors throughout the state, and I was happy to do that, but thank you, Alderwoman Schmidt.
It was my pleasure, but all of the thanks go to Bobby Mays and the folks at
Okay.
Parks and Rec.
Awesome.
They did an unbelievable job. It's been 19 years since we've had a Christmas tree lit in downtown Bloomington. So it was very cool.
Thank you.
And it's going to be even more cool next year. We got plans in downtown Bloomington Association.
Oh, good. And I also want to thank Alderman Scott Black for filling in for me for the Holiday Spectacular. I understand if you put on a little weight and had gray hair, they'd mistake you for Santa Claus.
Whoa. I did wear my ugly Christmas sweater
You did
and
your ugly Christmas
my
sweater?
Santa hat. So
Now, did they know it was an ugly Christmas sweater?
I knew what it was.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Any aldermen, men and women, have comments as we are finishing? Alderwoman Stearns.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm absolutely thrilled and delighted to have a Christmas tree in Bloomington. I thank all of you that were involved. I thank you that we indeed do have a Christmas tree. It's something that I thought was a good idea. And a wonderful memory from my childhood growing up all these years here in Bloomington, where it used to sit right back there, but I'm fine with it being outside. I think it's great. And I'd make the suggestion that if someone, would like to place a menorah, if one of our Jewish citizens would have one, I think it would be great to see that. I think it would be great to have it, to wish everyone a happy Hanukkah. And if we do have one, I don't know where we might want to put it, but I think it would be great to have one. And for that matter, any other holidays, Kwanzaa, whatever other holidays, if they have a symbol, I think that would be great. I will honor them all, and I won't, I promise you, to my Jewish friends, call it a holiday candle. I won't do that. It is a menorah. It is Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you. And actually, I was remiss, one other thing, tomorrow we have Not in Our Town, and I've signed the pledge. We have an event at 2 o'clock, and I'd certainly invite all of you to attend or listen to some of the, the coverage of that. I will be asking the city staff and Nora to send out a press release on some changes that I'm hoping that we will, in light of many of the recent events in, New York and in Missouri. I want to make it clear that that's not Bloomington normal. It's not been in the past. It's not now. We've got a great proactive law enforcement, and we're going to make sure that we keep connected to our community. And I'll be asking for us to reconsider, perhaps, not reconsider, but continue to expand police officer training. And I've spoke with several officers this afternoon, and I think we want to make sure that Bloomington has the lowest crime rate in Illinois. We want to keep it that way, and we have good connections with our neighborhoods and our police officers, and we want to continue that progress for the future. So anyway, thank you all. And at this point, do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Alderwoman Schmidt. Is there a second? Second by Alderwoman Howman. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, we're adjourned. Next week, but not 2 weeks. Right. Then we got at least 3, maybe